Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're having a look at what the current law on abortion is in Canada. Now, Professor Mathen, since the Morgentaler decision, the federal government has not enacted a law about abortion. My question is, could they? I mean, let's think about it from, I guess, both sides of what could theoretically happen. Could a federal government enact a criminal prohibition where they say no elective abortions after a certain date? And if they did, might that pass constitutional scrutiny? And then on the other side, could they enact a law enshrining a right to abortion either constitutionally or by way of strengthening abortion access by way of statute? I'll start with you, Professor Mathen.
So the Parliament of Canada, the federal government, has a very broad power to make criminal law. So could they, under their constitutional authority to make criminal law, say we think abortion is evil and should be prohibited? I think they would have the power to do that, but I think it would be very difficult to justify it under the charter, because certainly if you just had some kind of time limit on when an abortion could be procured with no consideration of the woman's interests, of health, of life of the mother, for example, I think that would be manifestly unconstitutional. Could they justify some limits? They could try and make that argument. I think it would be difficult. I wouldn't want to say they couldn't do it at all, but it would be quite complex. In terms of enshrining a right, I mean, really, the Constitution of Canada is the most, it's the highest form of rights that we have. And while Parliament could do that in their own, under their own authority, it wouldn't really touch the constitutional questions. So I would see it more as dealing with the criminal law and perhaps enshrining some rights under the Canada Health Act, for example, for access.
Professor Gilbert, the same question to you. The federal government hasn't enacted any laws about this, but what could they theoretically enact either to restrict abortion or to better protect it?
Well, I totally agree with Professor Mathen around the likelihood of any restrictions being upheld from a constitutional perspective. I don't imagine that that's going to happen, and I don't think it's a realistic future for our abortion rights. As far as access is concerned, the Prime Minister recently said that he was going to look at what he could do to improve access and look at what he could do under the Canada Health Act regulations to improve access. And I think there is a lot that could be done on that side. But the biggest barrier we have in access in Canada right now is a lack of providers. We just don't have enough doctors who are willing to perform abortions. And there's, not much you can do other than reduce the stigma around abortions, stop talking about it as something that is problematic, in the hopes that more doctors will be prepared to step up and help.
Professor Mathen, I just am curious, why is it that the federal government hasn't enacted any laws? And do you think that there's a chance that they will? Since obviously, as Professor Gilbert just said, the Prime Minister has said that they want to strengthen access.
Why haven't they enacted laws to protect abortion as a medical service?
Yeah.
I guess the moment hasn't been ripe, and because abortion flies under the surface, because we don't have a criminal prohibition, this gets fought at the provincial level, and it really is it's invisible. A lot of the barriers and the really serious consequences just don't get that much attention.
Professor Gilbert, same question. Why do you think there hasn't been to be frank, it's kind of convenient timing, right, for the government to come out and say, the federal government to say now we're going to look at strengthening access to abortion, when it's suddenly a very hot topic as a result of this leaked decision in the United States.
I think, over the years, governments have been really reluctant to raise abortion as an issue because it is so divisive and it always causes controversy. And even though Canadians overwhelmingly favor abortion, our anti-choice groups are heavily funded by their American parent organizations, and they have the ability to put out a lot of propaganda and a lot of noise. And I think personally, I'm always glad when no one starts talking about laws around abortion, because I don't see it as something that can be helped by the passage of a law. What we need is to be treating it like the medical service that it is and strengthening access through that portal.
We've got to go to commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about it as a medical service, as a provincially regulated healthcare service. We've got to go to break, but we'll be right back.